Are we there? Hello, hello, hello. Do let me know you can hear me. I think there's a chat box. Give me a little wave, drop a comment in there. We'll just wait for any stragglers. Officially, we've got about a minute till we start. We'll give that maybe 4 or 5 just to let people arrive. You will need something to write with. Whether that's an open Word document or a pen and a piece of paper or a notebook, your journal. We will be needing that. So yeah, make sure you got that. In the meantime, I'm just going to make sure all the technology is rocking and rolling. Very exciting indeed. All right, we've got a few arriving. People saying they're here. Good. Fantastic. Cool. So if you're just arriving, do make sure you've got something to write with. We'll be doing that in a little bit. Let me know you're here. Say hello. And we'll get started in about 4 minutes or so. The tea. Always need to have your tea. Okay, we're arriving. Hello. Let me know you're here. Whether in one of the comments boxes. Can you see my chat, by the way? Can you see my chat box? Which is just right on my screen. I do hope so. Okay. About another 3 minutes or so, then we're going to get started. Hello, if you're here. It's very good to have you. Love Google Plus. Still don't understand it for toffee, but I can do this bit, and that's all we need. So yeah, very good to have you. Have you got your pen and piece of paper or your notepad? Open Word document. We're going to use that. Do a few little housekeeping bits in a minute, and then we'll crack on. See if you're there. Good. Hi Vincenzo. Hi Wes. Pleasure to have you on board. If I haven't said your name, it's simply because it's not showing up in the comments for some reason. But I welcome you anyway, from the bottom of my heart. Cool. Couple of minutes and then we'll crack on. Ready? Do my warm-ups. So how are you all, you know? Do you all go and watch 50 Shades of Grey? That film that confuses some form of violent eroticism with love. Very strange on Valentine's Day. Anyway, that's for a whole nother class. I went for a walk to the city farm today. It was fascinating. My daughter loves seeing the pigs. We walk around the whole farm and she just makes pig noises at all the animals. It's hilarious. So, yeah, love that. All right, good. We are good to go. Welcome to Revealing Inner Wisdom. Now, that sounds a very kind of big title. The truth is, I had to call it something. But I want to begin with a question. The question is this: do you ever feel like there's something more to all of this? You know, whether it's something physical or, you know, yourself, or, you know, when you look up at the stars, do you feel like there's something more to this life? And that question, I think, is one of the great questions that we have, because it speaks to the heart of so many of life's supposedly important questions, you know, like, why are we here? You know, what is this all about? It is that question of, is there something more? You know, is there something more than money? Is there something more than this dog-eat-dog world? Is there something more that we are capable of? What's our true potential? You know, so is there something more? That's the question that I bring to open things with. And my hope and my belief, my intention from my heart is that we're going to find some answers tonight. That some of the things I'll be sharing will offer brand new perspectives, as well as giving you some really powerful tools that you can use to enrich your life and enrich the lives of others. A couple of kind of housekeeping bits. I really, really would suggest, if you can, that you close the other windows, not just in your house, because, you know, you'll probably get cold, but also, you know, the other Facebook windows, the Twitter windows, whatever it might be. You know, for the next hour, you know, hour and a half, really just be here, be present, because the one thing I can assure you is that the more you can be present with what we're going to be doing this evening, the more powerful it will be for you. So I really invite you to do that. And especially, there's a period where we're going to actually get into the process. We're going to do it practically. So I'd really recommend at that point, definitely, that you kind of minimize and you eliminate all distractions. If you are just joining us now, do make sure that you've grabbed yourself a notebook and a piece of paper, a pen, or you've got a blank Word document open, because we are going to be doing some writing in a bit. Cool. So my intention for this evening's session is to share oneness with you, through an inspiring educational experience. And I appreciate, I perhaps need to unpack that a little, you know, to say a bit about that. So if ever you see me glancing down like this, it's simply to make sure that I'm capturing and sharing with you everything that I've got planned, because there's a lot of stuff I want to share, and I want to make sure that you get the best of it. So if I ever do look down, it just means I'm checking out my notes. Here we go. These are my notes. So my intention here is to share a moment of oneness with you through an inspiring educational experience. What do I mean by that? Well, oneness is something we're going to be unpacking a bit more of as we go through the class. But essentially, oneness is the experience, the lived experience of that something more that we talked about. You've probably had it, you know, whether it's, you know, watching the dawn, you know, brighten. Maybe it's, you know, when you've been surfing or playing a sport, and there's just a moment where you seem to be operating on a different level. Your sensations are heightened, and you're existing in what can only be described as kind of a higher place, or a place where you are flowing with everything that is. And that's that oneness. And it's an experience that's spoken of by the sages, by the kind of, wise people and spiritual traditions throughout the ages. And whilst that's amazing that they share that, because it comes from these people and these figures who we regard rightly in many ways with great reverence, it can make that oneness experience seem like something that is beyond most of us. And actually, what I really hope for as we go through this session is that you will get the clear understanding and awareness that it is something that is available to all of us all of the time. Now, does that mean we can experience it all of the time? Well, it's a challenge. Let's be honest. I certainly can't. I think if you can get to that point where you're experiencing it all the time, then walking on water would be no challenge to you. So, we're not quite at that stage yet. But what I do want to, really get across is that this experience is something that's available to all of us, and that there are techniques and strategies we can use to help us experience it more often. Because when we are experiencing it, well, then, wow, that's when the magic really happens. So that's what I mean when I say oneness. And what do I mean by an inspiring education? Well, education for me gets a bit of a bad rep, because most of us have been through the traditional schooling system, which is not so much an education experience as an indoctrination experience. Because education, in the true sense of the word, means to bring out what's within. And so when I say an inspiring education experience, what I mean by that is I want you to leave this evening inspired by what you have brought out from within. And the experience bit of that literally means we're going to do something practical. You're going to live it and experience it rather than just me chat. I want to act as your guide, just to kind of, get some sparks lit so that you can then have got the fuel for that fire and you're living that experience of what you've brought out from within. So that's what I mean. We're going to have a oneness experience, and, you are going to be bringing it out from within. So that's what we mean by a oneness experience that is inspiring. So that's my intention. And I guess I should share a bit about, why. Why am I sharing it now? Well, if you kind of follow me on the various social medias, you'll see that up until fairly recently, there wasn't a lot to follow, because from about June until about, the start of this year, I really didn't share a lot. And if you've checked out some of the blogs I've been uploading recently, you'll know that I was going through a bit of a kind of time, really having some challenges, especially around confidence and around sharing myself with the world. Because I'm a poet, I love performing on stage. I love speaking. I love teaching. And those things come very naturally to me in a kind of a performance environment, or in a kind of educational setting where it's face-to-face, where it's human contact. But that whole kind of social media, online thing, I realized that there was some, stuff I had to work through. And it took me about 6 months to kind of, do the necessary work, to read the necessary things that came my way, to do the necessary reflection, to confront the difficult truths, and also to be given a truly profound gift, which is why we're on this class. The process of kind of soul connection, that I call it for want of a better phrase, is really what I want to share. That's the essence of what we're going to explore this evening. And that was something that was given to me throughout that 6 month period. And it really dawned on me that the things that helped me through that challenging time came to me as a result of people sharing things. So why am I sharing this class with you tonight? Why am I really honored and humbled that you are choosing to spend a brief portion of your Sunday evening with me? It's because I now know how powerful it is when you share. I wouldn't have got through it without other people sharing their gifts. And I've got no idea exactly how this evening's session will help you. but I just have to trust and have faith that it will, knowing that because I was helped by people sharing things, then if I share, maybe in some small way or some great way, you too may receive some help. So that's why I'm sharing it. Why is it important to you? Well, you know, we're on this pretty small planet out of billions and billions of other planets. And on this one pretty small planet, there are 7 billion plus of us human beings. And yet, out of all of those ridiculous numbers that fry my brain if I try to multiply them, you chose to spend this time with me, with us together, to share an experience of oneness, an inspiring educational experience of oneness. And therefore, I can't answer exactly why it's important to you. But out of billions of planets and billions of people, you chose to be here. So thank you for that. And I'm sure you have an idea of you know, why you feel called to be here. I just want to reassure you that I'm going to give 100% of my heart, my soul, my love to serve you in the fullest way I possibly can for the time we have together. So we've looked at why I'm sharing this class. We've got a sense of, you know, maybe why you're here. But I also feel there's one more, you know, why is this vital for the world? And, you know, maybe that sounds a bit kind of arrogant or egotistical to say that, you know, what we're doing here right now, this time we're spending together, is important for the world. But I'm sure you know that, you know, we face some pretty intense challenges on our planet. And the techniques and the ideas that I have to share with you this evening, you know, I believe, and I'm going on the kind of, you know, wisdom and sharing of other people who I'm sure I consider, you know, far more clever and wise than I am. But on their opinions too, that the kind of soul connection and the leadership that allows us to step into is vital for the world that we are in and the challenges we face in this present time. So I really honor you for being here, because I feel like it's important work for us to be doing. So thank you. I also feel like perhaps I should share a little bit about the science of this oneness that I mentioned. Take a little sip of tea there. Because I'm aware that for some of you watching this, when I talk about things like oneness, even that might start veering into the world of spirituality, hippie-ish, woo-woo kind of stuff. And I hear you on that. All I can say is that language really, even as a poet, you know, I recognize that language at times can only barely scratch the surface of expressing what needs to be expressed. And at the same time, I'm aware that there's also some fears in here within me around expressing the fullness of what I've experienced. Because when we talk about that oneness experience, it is that feeling of being alive and being connected to something we could never even put into words. And for many, the best word that works is an experience of the divine, or, you know, of something spiritual or mystical. From what I understand from having, you know, read the wisdom of very clever people, and also of kind of things coming to me at the right time, that what we might understand as science and what we might understand as spirit, really, though they are kind of expressed in different languages, ultimately they're starting to say very much the same thing. And to start with then, to kind of understand this science behind the oneness that we're talking about, behind this soul connection, we need to kind of get rid of a couple of schoolboy errors. Could be schoolgirl errors as well. You know, schoolboy errors is the phrase that we hear all the time. So the two schoolboy errors that really kind of damage us being able to step into a new way of being in the world, and therefore a new way of healing and of enriching ourselves and the world, are around separation and randomness. So the first schoolboy error is the belief, which comes from kind of, way back in the 16th century, the materialistic sciences of Newton and Descartes. This idea that we are separate individuals in a meaningless random universe. So we have two assumptions there. One is that we are separate, and one is that we live in a meaningless and random universe. And actually what our latest understandings in the fields of quantum physics and things are starting to reveal is that this is so far from the truth, that everything is connected by a web of energy. And again, the phrase web of energy is just the best language that I can use right now to express that, whereby, like a spider's web, if you twang one bit of the spider's web here, the entire spider's web will quiver. And that kind of metaphor speaks to the profound insights that came from two really amazing physicists, one called John Stuart Bell and one called David Bohm, which is spelled B-O-H-M, not Bohm. And John Bell, he identified the idea that all matter in the universe is connected together. And one of the ways he hypothesized that this was true, and his hypothesis was actually proven about 8-10 years ago, was that if you have one electron here that is spinning in one direction, and it's connected to another electron that could be miles and miles and miles away, if you change the spin of this electron here, the spin of the electron that it's connected to instantaneously is altered. So we have a situation where all life, the very fabric of all life, is fundamentally connected, and any change in any situation results in a change in the entirety. And the most fascinating thing that kind of grew from this was the work of David Bohm, who realized that on a fundamental level, our consciousness, human thought, actually influences that very kind of that underlying fabric, that underlying field. And he proved this with what's called a random number generator, where he got people to send to this random number generator, which just bashes out ones or zeros, to send the intention and the thought of more ones than zeros appearing. And what they found, even in the kind of strictest scientific, methodologies and testing procedures, was that human thought very much influenced the outcome of this random number generator, and more ones than should have been possible were generated. Why am I sharing this with you? Well, because I have a sense that you are here spending this time with us because you want to be a force for good in the world. And one of the things that really undermines our capacity to believe that that is possible for us as tiny individuals is this conditioning of we are living in a random and meaningless universe. And the work of Bell and Bohm really start to present a picture that offers a completely opposite view, that in fact we have meaning beyond what we could ever imagine, and that our tiny action, in whatever it may be, making a pancake for someone, or giving them a hug, or planting a tree, that this can have profound consequences that we may never even be aware of, but that are nonetheless profound and powerful and real. And to give you a sense of this, I've talked a bit about the kind of science and the facts. I want to share a story with you. And this is the story of the quantum snowflake. And, with Valentine's having just passed, it's actually a bit of a love story as well. So I want you to picture somewhere that is beautiful, beautiful setting in nature. And imagine it's a real picture book winter in that beautiful setting, which might be a challenge if you've imagined the tropics, but, go with it. So I want you to imagine that there is a beautiful sun rising over the mountains, and fresh snow is falling, and as the snow falls, it catches the rays of sunlight. And so there's this kind of almost feeling like diamonds are falling from the sky. And along a road that runs through this very beautiful setting, a car is making its way. And inside the car is a lady called Rose. And Rose is driving along the road, and thankfully the kind of gritters have been out, or the snow plows, and while the road is clear, there's snow, just beautiful, deep banks of snow lining the road, and trees all along the road have got, they've got that white kind of snow cap on, the way the kind of snow sits on top of the branches. And she's driving along, just marveling at the beauty of it. And she's got the windows down because she just wants to take in this majesty, this beautiful moment. And up ahead, she sees quite a tight bend. And she wants to be cautious, make sure she kind of gets to her destination. And so she slows down to kind of take the bend. And as she starts to slow down, she hears a really strange creaking sound. A really strange creaking sound that then turns into like a really loud crashing, cracking sound. And as she rounds the bend, she sees just this white mist, and the road is shaking. And as this white mist clears, which she realizes is a load of snowflakes that have been thrown into the air, she sees that a huge tree has fallen across her path. And she brings the car to a halt, pulls up by the tree, and looks around because she's got to get to somewhere that's about 40 miles up the road. And she's a bit worried because, to be honest, she hadn't packed any winter gear. She was heading to a nice hotel where, all the amenities were there. And, she's concerned. She's in an area of, outstanding natural beauty, but no mobile phone reception. So she looks to either side of the tree and sees that there's kind of a ditch running either side, and there's no way she's going to be able to drive around this tree. And she's already been on the road for a fair while. She set off early, so going back to where she came from isn't really an option. And she starts to get a little bit panicky. And her breathing quickens because at the moment she can't see any way out. So she lifts up her eyes to the heavens, puts her hands on her heart, and just says, "Please help me. Please help me." And then she goes back into the car, has a sandwich, and decides to stay warm. She's got a bit of petrol in the car, so she figures she's maybe got, a few hours, and she just prays that someone else comes along. And as luck would have it, if you believe in luck, about 15 minutes later, she's finished the sandwich, just enjoying a sip of water, and a truck pulls up. Not like a big lorry, but like one of those American trucks, like a 4x4. And out of the 4x4, steps this dashingly handsome gentleman, of course. And this dashingly handsome gentleman is called Dave. And Dave wanders over and kind of just peers inside the window and says, "Oh, ma'am, are you okay? Everything all right?" And she kind of looks at him, has to do a little double take. She hadn't expected to see the kind of lumberjack equivalent of David Hasselhoff in Baywatch, but there he is right in front of her. And she goes, "Yeah, yes, I'm okay." And he goes, "Great," steps off and walks up to look at the tree. And after kind of looking around, Dave clearly comes to the same conclusions that Rose had. That tree ain't getting moved. And so Dave walks up to her and says, "Miss, have you got some help on the way?" And Rose says, "Well, no, I've got no mobile signal. I'm heading to the hotel, 40 miles away up the road." And Dave says, "Well, miss, I have to be honest, the weather here can change very suddenly. And by the looks of things, I'm guessing you've got no winter gear. So if you'd accept my help, I live in a cabin just, about a mile down the road. I'd be glad to kind of take you back there and to, give you a hot meal, and you can call from my phone. And Rose thinks about this because our society is so good at chipping away at our ability to trust. But after a while, Rose realizes she's basically got no other options. So she takes a leap. She says, that would be great, thank you. And she jumps out and jumps into Dave's truck. And I'll fast forward the story a little because we don't need to go into the details. But needless to say, if you were to have visited that same road a year later, you would have found Dave and Rose sitting on the stump of the tree, sharing a picnic, celebrating their 1-year anniversary of meeting. And why do I share this? Well, you see, this story, it isn't really about Dave or Rose, despite all the synchronicities that brought them together. And yet it is. But in truth, this story is more about Pete. Now, Pete is a snowflake. Strange name for a snowflake, I appreciate, but Pete was the name that kind of felt like it wanted to be attached to the snowflake. And Pete was not just any snowflake. Pete was the 4 trillionth snowflake to fall on the tree. And up until that point, all the other snowflakes, they just weighed the tree down a bit. But when Pete landed on that tree, it was the snowflake that broke the tree. And with that tiny, 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 tiny bit of extra weight from Pete the snowflake, the tree could no longer support its weight, and it fell across the road. So most of us in this life, we feel like snowflakes, just falling, possessing a unique and amazing beauty that almost no one will ever appreciate. And we are beautiful for a moment, and then we fade and melt away. And I share the story of Pete the snowflake with you, of Rose and Dave, because every single one of us, whether we know it or not, has the capacity to be that powerful. Pete was just being Pete. He was just falling as a snowflake. But by being the best snowflake he possibly could, he set in motion a chain of events that were beautiful and life-affirming. And every one of us has that power in us. And tonight, I want to make sure that you have some techniques and ways of stepping into that power more often. Because you are it, whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not, you are powerful and amazing and beautiful. But when you step into knowing that truth and living it as a way of being of service, well, then you start to bring into the world predictable miracles. You start to be a conduit for whatever that force is that you want to call it, whether it's love, whether it's the divine, whether it's that oneness, whether it's just, the quantum energy field. You start to become a conduit for it to work through you and to bring these predictable miracles into the world. So that's the story of Pete the snowflake. And I hope you take from it that message that every single one of us has the power to impact the universe in ways that are beyond imagining. So I want to start moving now into the practical stuff, to kind of actually doing this stuff. So from now, I'd really invite you to, make sure that for the next half hour or so, you're not going to be disturbed. Do whatever you need to do. I'm going to have a quick sip of tea. But so if you need to put your phone on silent, if you need to just, close the living room door, if you just need to let your partner know that, for the next half hour, it'd be really great if you could just have a moment, then, go ahead and do that. Give you, and make sure you've got something to write with, because we're going to go into that now. So go ahead. I'll give you a couple of minutes just to make sure you've got that. Grab some water if you need it. And then we'll really kind of get cracking on the practical aspect of this session. And if you've got all those things, let me know in the comments. Did you like the story of Pete the Snowflake? Do you get the kind of metaphor? It's beautiful to see so many of you here. I'm very humbled. All right, cool. We'll give it one more minute, and then we'll crack into the process. Let me just make sure my notes are in order. Good. Cool. All right, and we're back. So, mate, that's good tea. If you haven't discovered it yet, and you want a great kind of caffeine-free alternative, Earl Grey Rooibos. Oh, mate, it's amazing. Bit of honey, beautiful. So, how do we allow this oneness, this whether you call it divine connection or source field energy, to start working through us? To kind of, how do we live that? Well, the first thing is that we need to make a commitment. And what I mean by that is we need to make a commitment to actually open ourselves up to that, to say, hey, whatever you choose to believe in, whether it's, love or God or just, hey, universe, we need to surrender and open ourselves up to the possibility of this energy working through us. I want you to think of it almost like it's like if you haven't switched the television on, then ain't no way you can watch any pictures from it. Okay, so in that same way, if you don't invite the energy to work with you and through you, it's very hard for that to happen. And it really is a leap of faith in many ways, because what we are committing to is committing to the plans and processes that we had created with our thinking mind. We are committing to surrendering and letting go of those, which can be a really scary thing. And to say, look, I know that there is a force in this world that guides and shapes and nurtures and supports, and it does all of these things in ways that are more amazing than I could ever come up with on my own, but that I play a vital role in shaping and serving that force as well. So here's the paradox, is that you are a vital snowflake, but you almost have to surrender to the power of the storm so that you will land on the branch you're meant to land on. Does that kind of make sense? And it really is. I'll share a little example, maybe to kind of give you a sense of what I'm talking about. My wife and I, it looks like we will be moving to Cornwall very soon. There's some projects that have been emerging, and when we talk about commitment, this is perhaps what I mean, is that we'd set the intention to be clear on where we wanted to live and what we wanted to be doing by the start of January this year. And by December, we really had no idea. We'd come down to Bristol to spend a bit of time with my mother so she could get to know my daughter, and we could kind of have it as a stopgap for our next step. And we went to see some friends down in Cornwall who have some land, because ultimately we want to be living on the land, bringing people onto the land to give them a sense of the kinds of things we're experiencing here tonight. But obviously when you do it in nature, it's like turning up the volume 1,000%. So and we visited this place that they had, and it was amazing and beautiful. And as we were driving away from Cornwall again back to Bristol, we were like, well, hang on a sec, we feel inspired and alive and energized whenever we visit Cornwall. Why are we leaving? And suddenly the penny dropped, and we're like, my God, that's where we should be. That's what feels right now. And we started discussing the kinds of things we could do there, based on the people we were already connected to down in Cornwall. And it felt so right. Now, if we'd gone into that whole kind of thinking and planning place of our kind of rational mind, we'd have talked ourselves out of it very quickly, because, you know, Cornwall is pretty much miles away from anywhere, especially we were going down to Penzance. You know, that's, you know, 5 hours away from London. It seems to make no sense, and yet it feels and felt like the right thing to do. So we just were like, well, let's go with it. Let's trust. Let's make that commitment that is what we want to do, and kind of surrender to the kind of guiding intelligence, if you will. And 2 days later, I received a call from a dear friend who lives down there, and he said that he would love for me to be heading up a project helping young people who have challenges with education and challenges with finding work. And as of I speak to you right now, on the 15th of February, we are 2 weeks away from finding out whether the first lot of funding for that project is going to be rubber stamped. So it was unbelievable that literally the 2 days after we made the commitment, we get the call that says, hey, look, we've got a project for you here and it's going to be amazing. So that's what I mean. We could never have ever planned the scope of this project. When my friend was sharing me a few bits about it, you know, I was blown away at the range of possibilities that are opening up. So that's what I mean when I say the first step in this process of being able to kind of be this conduit for soul connection to work through you is to make the commitment, to surrender and say, I am open for, you know, this energy to work through me and to create things through me and with me that I could never imagine myself. And there really is an element of trust in this, trusting that actually by doing that, it has any impact at all, and trusting that you are heard, that, you know, the universe or love or the divine is actually responding to you. And the one thing I would perhaps say about that is that when we open ourselves up like that, when we take the time to trust, we actually start altering our body's chemistry and the kind of energetic fields that surround our body. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute, but I really say that to give you a sense of just how powerful it can be to make that commitment and set that intention of surrendering yourself to the kind of the fuller power. So that's the kind of first step, is to make that commitment. And I want to just next outline the process that we're going to be going through. And then we're going to bring it all together by just kind of creating a space together. Even though we're digital, we know that, you know, the energy of my heart flows out to every one of you is here, and to everyone else in this world. So, you know, what I want to do is make sure that we create a space for ourselves for this process to work in. But first, let me just outline the process, and then we'll go ahead and we'll just flow with it. So, this soul connection process, and if soul as a word doesn't work for you, then cool, you know, go for source field energy, or, you know, go for love. Love is the word that I actually use quite often. But it's worth saying a bit about souls, in that across so many different cultures and spiritual traditions, it is understood that human beings have two parts to their consciousness. One is this human body, and the other is this immaterial higher self or soul. And the soul is kind of guiding the body, and collectively they are learning the lessons that they do throughout the life. So, you know, if soul wasn't comfortable for you, cool. But I hope it's okay for me to use that word, because it's the word that I guess I've been using and have been sharing in the blogs and things. So yeah, we're going to go with soul. So the first thing to say about this soul connection process is that it's about stepping into a way of being, not a way of doing. If you're trying to kind of make something happen, actually you're almost kind of hindering the process. So there's a little kind of phrase to keep in mind. Thinking is shrinking. Thinking is shrinking. And what I really want you to take from that is the idea that as we kind of set ourselves free to just write whatever is coming from the soul, if we think about it too much, if we stop to think, we literally, it's almost like, imagine like a broadband connection to your soul. I mean, I'm going up here just because that's, so imagine you have this broadband connection to your soul. And the more you think, the more you actually kind of just close off this connection, and limit the flow from coming through. So what we are really aiming for here is just to be aware of what is coming through or what is rising up, and just to put it down without thinking too much, because thinking is going to shrink the connection. Okay. And the next vital kind of thing to understand is the power of setting an intention, or, you know, if you want to kind of understand it from a spiritual perspective, is offering a prayer. And we talked a bit about that kind of that TV example. And what we're doing here is we're literally, what I call activating the Akashic auto-tune. And you might go, what the hell does that mean? Akashic auto-tune. So in the Hindu spiritual tradition, there is the belief that all the knowledge that's ever been and ever will be in the universe is present and available to us if we know how to tap into it. And it's said to reside in what's known as the Akashic field, which is an energy field that exists beyond the physical realm. And if we can learn how to manage our body chemistry and the fields of our body that we create, and to harness the power of our mind and our heart, then actually we can learn to tune into this Akashic field. And this has a very, very kind of relevant and acknowledged parallel in science. There's a thing called remote viewing. And a guy called Professor Peter Stewart is one of the authorities on remote viewing. And remote viewing is literally where, you will see something in your mind's eye and be able to kind of take down details of it. I guess a form of kind of telepathy, if you like. But it's actually, it's got a documented, evidenced background of success. It's known that both sides of the Cold War would use remote viewing. The Americans had great success viewing the Russian bunkers and what was going on in those bunkers without, any kind of on the ground intelligence. All they would have is the map coordinates, and they would be able to see what was going on using this remote viewing technique. And the idea is that the Akashic field is the same as what Professor Peter Stewart would call the information field. But actually we have this field of information or wisdom outside of our physical experience that we can learn to tap into. And one of the ways we do this is by setting an intention or by saying a prayer. And by doing this, we literally align our receptive abilities, our receptive capacity with the wisdom that we wish to receive. So very much we are tuning into the Akashic field that we need, or we are tuning into the information that we require, and that's the power of intention. So the process so far will be to understand that we are surrendering and trusting, letting this energy work through us, and that by setting an intention or a prayer, we are inviting in a specific strain of wisdom, a specific area of wisdom and knowledge to come to us. And one of the ways that we maintain the connection is through our body and through our breathing. So our body is relaxed, and our breathing is heart-based, if that's the right way to say it. Breathing into your heart. And feeling that kind of energy and power that comes when you breathe into your heart. And you may want to add in with your body, if you have it, any kind of energy activation practices or exercises. So for me, very simply, I rub my hands together like this, just above my heart. And the hands are known to be great kind of conduits for energy. So just by warming up my hands, I'm inviting that energy to begin to flow. And along with breathing into the heart, it's kind of, you feel this energy rising in you. So what are we kind of, what are we looking for? How are we going to know as we go through this process that we are kind of coming from the soul, if you like? Well, I guess the best way to describe it is that we are, our consciousness is aware of information coming in, and fractions of a second later, our fingers, our hands, our bodies are capturing what is coming in. So I can only describe it perhaps as maybe like a live translator. So you hear someone at the UN conferences, someone will be speaking in Japanese, and the French person will be listening and will be speaking like, as they're finishing their sentence, they'll be giving them the whole of the previous sentence. So it's very much, that's the kind of process we're aiming for, is to be able to feel the words rising up or coming in, whatever kind of sensation it might be for you. And we're literally not thinking about them. We're not stopping to analyze them. We're just being aware of them and writing them down, being aware of them and writing them down. And when you get it, I guess, what you will experience is like a flow where the words are coming in, you're writing them down, you're conscious in one way of what you're writing down, but at the same time, you've got no time to be, deliberatively conscious, if you like, because you're straight onto the next word. So it's like you're writing and the people went, but at the time you're writing and you're hearing people went, and you just, so your hands are responding a fraction of a second after what's coming into your consciousness. Which, again, it's like trying to kind of describe the taste of an apple. What the best way is simply just to bite into the apple and to see how we get on. So the one key element to kind of brings all this together is forming the question. And that is how we're going to set our intention. That's how we're going to kind of let that prayer bring in the information we need, is to formulate the question. And I guess it might be useful for me to just give you a sense of what this process was for me, so that you can get a sense of the whole flow of it, and then we're just going to go and crack into it and do it. So around March time of last year, I was in a very kind of pretty dark place. My self-worth was, really taking a battering for reasons that I couldn't quite work out. And I felt like I was a bit of a fraud. I wasn't expressing myself authentically. I kept worrying about, whether I was saying the right things to people, whether I was sharing the right things online. And it got to a point where my creativity just dried up. And it really, creativity, whether it's writing poems or trying to master the process of becoming a rapper or writing blogs, or even just kind of reading and researching and jotting down ideas of how I might be able to serve. All of these things are just things that really, really energize me and, fill me up. And it had all just dried up. And I was literally in desperation, to the point where I was nearly in tears. And something just, came to me. Like, I was like, right, if there is a soul, if there is a God, if there is a higher power in this life, I need help now. I need guidance now. So I was just like, right, I'm going to write a letter to my soul, because I remember, there's that guy called Neil Donald Walsh who's written that very famous series of books called, Conversations with God. And what he did is he just literally said, right, is there a God out there? And at some point, the words just came in. It's like, right, are you listening now, sort of thing. And then he just started creating these incredible insights and books. So I was like, well, let me try this, because if that doesn't work, then I'm at a loss. I've got nothing. And for the next hour, it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I literally just put my fingers on the keys and just started writing. And it just said, "Dear George, this is your soul here. We've come to lift you up." And I was like, weird. And I just kept writing, not trying to worry about what was coming out. But obviously I was aware of what I was writing, even as I kept writing the next things. And it was just amazing. I knew that what was coming out was just unbelievably valuable and uplifting and inspiring, and useful as well. And there was even times where, I was I'd be kind of writing. It was like, right, we're going to meditate now. So just stop, meditate, and come back. You'll know when it's time to start writing again. And I had this meditation where I was just crying tears of joy. And then it was like, right, I'm going to write again. It was unbelievable. And from that point on, I knew there was something more. And it was the most amazing proof that this more existed, because I'd had inklings. You know, I met an amazing woman. She may even be watching tonight. If she is, Michelle, hello. A lady called Michelle Gordon, who, you know, she writes books. She's written like 9 books. She has an amazing series called the Earth Angel Training Academy series, looking about humans who feel there is something more, how they've kind of incarnated on this earth and are here to serve. And she doesn't plan out these books at all. She just writes and, you know, lets it pour through her. And so I was like, wow, you know, that's amazing. But really, maybe she's special. And then this happened, and I was like, my God, no, it is available to all of us. So that was the kind of process. And from that first experience, I then just started trying to do it again and again to see, you know, if it was real, if there was something kind of I could repeat, and therefore it was a process that I could use for myself and could share for others. So, you know, what the process that evolved was, you know, I would come to my keyboard with a question, you know, something that was kind of I was struggling with, and I would just write out the question and say, you know, dear love, today I would love some guidance on this topic, or dear love, today please, you know, I need some clarity on this, and then I would just start writing and just trust that what came through would be the right things. And sometimes it was so weird, you know, I'd literally get insulted. It'd be like, George, you're just making this up to make yourself feel better. And I'd realize, well, actually, oh, I am, you know, and it was amazing. So you may get things you don't expect, but, you know, really I'd invite you just to trust the process and to go with it. So if you're ready, I'd invite you just to kind of, you know, relax for a moment, whether you're in your seat, or whether you're standing up, whether you're lying down, you know, just to relax and come into your heart, and to know that you are not alone in this world, that you have a reason for being here that is beautiful, that is unfolding every moment, every breath, and that tonight you have in this session with you brothers and sisters from, you know, all over the world who have joined to help you connect with your soul, connect with that universal power that is available to all of us, and to guide us and to inspire us. And that we together are creating a sacred space for that energy to come in and for it to help us in whatever way we most need. And I'd invite you to, whether you want to close your eyes, whether you want to keep them open, just to take a few deep breaths into your heart. And maybe you feel yourself being breathed already. Feel like there's a powerful energy already in those breaths. As you breathe in, feel your body rise, and your heart open. And know that everything that's happened has brought you here to this perfect moment. And if there is a question, a challenge you've been having, something you'd like clarity on, then I'd invite you to just let that rise up for you, or to come through for you. What's your question? And it may come together as some, you know, perfectly formed phrase or sentence. It may just be like, I know this is the topic I need guidance on. And if you have your question, or whenever you're ready, I want you to write down your question and to write whatever comes up. We're going to spend 10 to 15 minutes and just write and write and write. Don't think about it, just write and write and write. If you ever find yourself pausing and stopping, just breathe into your heart, breathe into your heart. And when the words start to flow again, just write and write and write. And if other questions rise up, write them down and just write and write and write. I'm going to do this too. I've got a question I could do some clarity on. So go ahead. Write your question and let your soul come in and just write and write. take a couple more minutes, Okay, and whenever you're ready, invite your soul or the universe to bring your writing to a natural close. You may feel like there's loads more. Great. As soon as we finish this, you can crack on, go back to it. You know the process now. So cool. Thank you for playing full out. Thank you for going for it. And I appreciate I've just given you a short time there, but I really hope that it's you felt the seed kind of burst into flower. Whether that flower was huge or whether that flower was just kind of letting itself be known. I hope you can see there's some power in this process, and the real guidance I would say is to practice it, to keep practicing it, because really I found that there's times where I'll slip out of that connection, and I'll know when I've slipped back into it, and it really comes from just kind of breathing into your heart and just letting the writing flow again. And so please, I really would love, again, we have this little group who came together. It would be amazing whether you found this through the Facebook group, event, or through the Google Plus thing. You've been leaving some comments. If you wanted to share anything that came through to you, that would be amazing, because, and I said it in the blogs, the words that I offer as your words as well. We are all one. Ultimately the molecules and electrons that move through me at some point in this lifetime will move through you also. And so whatever has come up for you in sharing it, if you feel you could share it, then, as I've seen with the blogs I've been sharing, some of the responses, it's blown me away that the things that I thought were really personal for me, but I felt called to share them anyway, were the very things that kind of most helped people and kind of gave them insights and inspiration. So if you would feel called to share some things, please go ahead and do it. Anything that came up for you. The last couple of bits that came through for me really were, above all, keep loving and keep trusting. And that, I really couldn't have put it better, because when you can love yourself, when you can love yourself enough to know that sometimes we slip out of this flow with the universe, but when we can then trust that we can always find that flow again, then that's when we find it almost immediately. It's uncanny. So keep loving, keep trusting. And I want to just finish with a couple of kind of insights to help you build the practice, and what I think the practice points to as well. A bit of a kind of bigger picture element. Excuse me. So the first thing is, like I said, if you want to develop and strengthen this practice, strengthen that connection, really practice, keep doing it. And I know that for me, as I've kept doing it, even if it might be, once a month or, once every couple of weeks, it's allowed me to kind of know that feeling that I get in other moments in my life as well. So, there'll be things where I think, oh, I should, maybe I should do this. And now, because I've had this practice, I'll pick up the phone and make the call that I should do, or I'll write the thing that I should. And amazing things have come from that as a result. So the more you practice, the more you'll start to kind of get that soul coming through in random moments that you weren't expecting, and you'll be able to trust it and go with it. So keep practicing, keep doing it. Again, I would say trust the feeling, you know, that feeling that you just had, I hope, there, where you felt that you were kind of connected to something greater than yourself, which in truth is yourself as well. Keep trusting that feeling. And I'll give you a very quick example of that from, you know, I've just been doing some work in Sweden at the start of the year. And, you know, with Valentine's around the corner, I'd never really shared my poetic talents, you know, at the most obvious time for them, which is Valentine's. And yet this year, I was like, right, I need to do that. And when I was in Sweden, I had this feeling that I should make some videos for a few people and send them the videos and invite them to kind of let me make a poem for them. And the plan I had was, you know, this huge, great plan. But, and ultimately it didn't quite come out as I expected, but I still did it. I acted on the feeling that came up, that this feeling that, hey, this is your soul here, make those videos. And I made them, and consequently, you know, really made, you know, created some works of art that were profoundly beautiful gifts for people, and also which, you know, saw me very well rewarded, because I, you know, I knew that I was going to create something awesome, and I put a good price on it. And that's the real key here as well, is when you can start trusting that feeling, more often than not, you will be guided to trust your value, trust your creativity, trust your unique gifts, and to start sharing them and keep sharing them. And I've found, you know, this past, you know, 3-4 months of having this practice in my life, that I've been able to trust my creativity more, trust that I am supported by the universe to share my unique gifts. And the results have been that that's been the case, and it's been really beautiful and really profound. So really trust that feeling. And there's 2 final things that I want to kind of invite you to do. One is to understand that this, whilst it may seem a bit hippie-ish and stuff, is very real and very scientific. You are changing your body's frequencies. You are changing the makeup of your body's energies and energetics. And as a result, you are tapping into fields of energy and information that exist and are real. And as such, this is a technology, a cutting edge technology that is as real and profound as this iPhone here. You know, it is, for me, it is the next frontier of human development and human technological growth. And you are at the forefront of it. Know that you are at the forefront of it. And as such, you are a leader. And I invite you to step into that leadership, to keep developing this practice and to share it with others. If it brings you insights and information and inspiration and wisdom that is useful and valuable, share it. That is your role as a leader who now possesses this technology. So please, I invite you to do that. And in all of, you know, what we've been discussing, I'd invite you to do one final thing, which is to find yourself a copy of a book called Synchronicity by Joseph Jaworski. And that is Jaworski. And I've nearly finished reading it just now. And the most amazing magical thing is that it really captures all the things we've been discussing, and all the things that I was already intending to share on this class, you know, came together in a book that just presented itself to me. So it's an amazing book about how we can live from the soul and respond to its guidance and actually co-create the future that we want and the future that we want for the world as a result of paying attention to synchronicities and listening to that powerful and beautiful inner voice. So I really guide you to go and grab a copy of that, because it's been a profound gift for me. And I therefore feel that if you've taken the time to be on this session together, then it will be a profound gift for you as well. So there we are. That's our session done. I'd like to finish with a poem, because, you know, I love sharing poems. And yeah, please, if this session has been helpful, you know, let me know via, you know, this Google Plus page, the Facebook page. Drop me an email if you've got any questions, anything that, you know, didn't quite click for you, or anything that did click for you and you wanted to share it. drop me an email, drop me a message. You know, I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. You know, I'm here to, you know, try and let more love be in the world. So, you know, that's where we're at. So cool. This final poem, you may have heard it before, but it's always worth hearing things again because we always hear different things. So actually, I might do a little medley thing. I might do a little remix thing. So I'm going to share a couple of little lines from a poem called Creative Uprising, and then also one from a poem called The Reenchantment of Gaia, which is about connecting with ourselves and the earth profoundly. So here we go, a little remix poem for you. So who am I? Just a soul lighting up, surrendering my all to the call of love, and I'll be whatever life needs me to be. But here's how life works so geniusly. See, when you seek to serve others as you serve yourself, the universe decides that your best way to help is to live what you love without compromise or doubt, because your greatest joy is your greatest clout. So get out of that mind state of worthlessness. When you give your gift, the whole earth is blessed, and every test, trial, struggle, and strain is just conditioning your brilliance so you can attain those peaks and heights you were born to be scaling. And if you're always learning lessons, then how can you be failing? It is time for unveiling a new way to be, a soul connection where our joy lives unfettered and free. Because you see, all that you are is all you can be. So be what you love until all of you's free. And all that you seek is all you will find. And magic will be if you've magic in mind. So let your heart voice its truth. Let your life be the proof. You care not just for yourself, but for our old and our youth. Let your actions be judged, but may your soul be forgiving. For we all make mistakes in this age that we're living, where our every moment has meaning, has hope, has screaming, and even in stream and stone you'll find love's spirit is dreaming. Our means for healing? Simple, just smiles and laughter. Let them be our constant focus as we motion to avert disaster. And earth's price to be paid? It may well be our lives, but the greatest journeys are the ones taken inside, and the stakes will rise. There's no doubting that. The challenge to come is knowing how to react from the perspective of now, of this place and time, or as an infinite soul who was born to shine. Love or fear? It's the simple choice. It's time to witness a species start using their voice. So don't think twice, don't even pause. It's one love all the way from wherever you are to the Glastonbury tour. And the more we seek to give out love in our lives, the greater our means to each live loving lives. So we give love to the hives and all our earth's bees to heal this planet. Guide us, we plead. Blaze up those fires of need. It's time to rescue the seed. It's time to reignite this planet and replant the trees. See, that is the true revolution, right there in your hands. As simple as put your heart into healing the place where you stand. And on that basis can man, woman, and child re-embrace the nature of the beautiful wild with no need to be filed or data protected, knowing all life is by love so completely connected, which is to be expected. Because all that you are is all you can be. So be what you love until all of you is free. Thank you so much for listening and spending time together. I have no words to express my gratitude. All I can do is be a conduit for love in this world. And if there's any way I can help you do that, help your community do that, you need only let me know. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to catch you next time.